Hello, trade pros, and welcome to yet another YouTube video for everyone. We are going to be talking about price action trading on time charts today and how you can apply this to your swing trading or your day trading, whatever it may be. But I'm going to be focusing more on the day trading aspect. Now, price action charts are going to be the main type of chart that we use today, if anyone's curious. And we're going to be looking at time charts. We're going to be looking at how price action moves, a few rules to follow when trading with price action. We're going to look at both stocks and futures. So ETFs and stocks and then futures as well to show you guys how we could attribute this price action trading strategy to anything and any asset technically. So what we're going to be doing today is going through a lot of things that you see on the screen here. You can see my screen looks super messy, but what I'm going to do is just eliminate all of the indicators and start from scratch and give you guys an in-depth view of what we do with our price action trading strategies. Now, here on my screen, we've got the SPY in two different time frames on the left and on the top right, and then the triple Qs. We're going to be looking at the S&P 500 futures as well and how to dive into what we call price action trading. So what we're going to be talking about today will start right after a few messages and our intro. So number one, if you guys are not subscribed yet, I see that a lot of people that watch our videos are not yet subscribed. It would really help us a lot if you hit that subscribe button because it's going to help us help you. What we're going to do is open up our live room for a day for both futures and options to YouTube if we hit that 60K subscriber mark. Now we are in the low 50s, and I want you guys to help us. At 100K, we're going to be doing some giveaways and so on and so forth. So if you guys want to see more very actionable learning from Trade Pro Academy and myself, you guys need to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let us know that you like what we put out so we can continue putting stuff out like this. And also ring that little bell to notify you when we drop videos like these and when we go live each day for our midday updates and our morning updates to show you guys what we do in our trading room, so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's wrap up this intro and get started in what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome back, everyone, and today we're going to be breaking down our charts on how you can trade with price action. So first of all, what is price action before we get too much into this? Price action is understanding how charts move based on their candlestick movements, how patterns form, how trends form, and based on that, identifying support, resistance, supply, and demand zones for you to look for trades in. Now, taken for example, before we get started with this, today on the SPY, we had a very strong price action zone, our yellow zone, which I attribute as a flip zone, where we saw the price actually break under this flip zone. And what we're going to be doing is looking for retests into that zone to prove the bearishness for that continued move. Now, as the day progresses, we have other flip zones that we may attribute to the day session, but overall, the major flip zone that stays with us is going to be drawn pre-market before the market actually moves based on prior sessions movement and understanding. So let's see how we can identify these flip zones, how we can identify these support resistance zones, how we can identify trends, and just everything to do with the price action strategies. So first of all, price action is dependent on trends, I would say, to start off with. So what that means is you can find trends on any type of moving market, right? You can find trends on any time frame, and you can use these to find price action movement on swing trades, on day trade basis, whatever it may be. Now you can see there is a plethora of lines here that I have drawn on the SPY, and I'm not going to remove these because I want to keep these. They are my intraday daily levels that I like to analyze and identify trade opportunities. Now, if you look at this, it looks very messy, but on a daily basis, you can see that there are price action rules. So let's just go ahead and hide a lot of these trend lines instead of getting rid of them. And what we're going to do after is break down what trends are in price action with the SPY before we go on an intraday basis. So we've gotten rid of most of the trend lines here. And there we go. That's all I want to get rid of here today so we can see clearly. Now, price action is based on trends to begin with, support, resistance levels, so on and so forth. So number one, there is two main trends that we like to follow and a third one which happens the majority of the time. Now, this third one is the range trend, which I will not talk about too much, but the other two are going to be our bull and our bear. So what these main two trends identify is that there is going to be a continuation or a break of these trends, right? Based on price action, which could lead us to potential trade ideas. Now, the bullish trend is identified with higher highs and higher lows naturally. The bearish trend is going to be lower lows and lower highs. So you can look at this on a daily basis. You can look at it on a 5-minute. You can look at it on a 10-minute. The markets are fractal, so no matter what type of time frame that you look at it, you are going to find a trend within somewhere. So if we look at this, obviously on the SPY, we have the upside structure. So we have higher highs and higher lows, higher highs and higher lows. But in certain occasions, we can fail to make higher highs, and that's going to give us some intermediate pullback in the trend. So the idea is if we fail to make a higher high here, the more we test it, there is a pretty high likelihood that we come down and retest some of these lows. Now, to the other end, to the bear side, you're typically going to see lower lows and lower highs. Now, from this, you can identify where you have supply demand zones, where you have support resistances, and so on. So typically a support resistance area is a level that's been tested and held. So you can draw a very strong support resistance area right here, which would be a demand zone, and then you can draw another one at these all-time highs at these tops, and then you have some in between that are intermediate. So naturally, when a support is broken, it typically turns into resistance, and there's going to be some downside pressure coming into that. When a resistance is broken, it turns into support typically, where we could see some upside pressure coming into the market from there. So if we look at this on an hourly, for example, you can find more opportunity here. You can find stronger supply and demand zones or support resistance areas where you can see we've had one right here. And on the following day, we get a push down to the next support resistance where we get a push back up. Now, once you start breaking areas like these, if you draw this as an example here, right? If we want to confirm that the structure is to the upside, higher highs and higher lows, once we break through it and shatter it on large volume, we're going to be anticipating that there's going to be some kind of support structure that comes in here where the buyers attempt to push it back up. Once we get into this big supply zone, what we're going to see is sellers attempt to push it down. So the strategy hinges on identifying these areas, identifying the trend, and seeing if there are rotations, if there are big volume sellers or buyers that come into this market at these levels. So, with our price action strategy, we can dive into more of day trading, right? So, let's talk about this strategy in terms of day trading. Now, you've seen us draw our levels here on the 1 hour chart where we could find key support resistance areas, right? These areas are going to be very important. Typically what I like to do is draw them on the hourly, and then I'll look at the 10-minute chart and see if we can find any other levels, any other areas of confluence. So on the 10-minute chart, I know that this area that was prior resistance is going to hold out as pretty good support. We just need to see some buying candles, and we do get a slight little burst. Now, on the intraday, what we could do is find areas of prior interest, right? This prior top right here could be identified as well. And these areas are going to be used as support resistance areas, meaning that now that we are above this level, right? We want to see if it's going to hold support for the upside. It does temporarily here, but nothing crazy. Same thing when it drops down to this area, based on this little level right here, are we going to hold it support, or are we going to break down and actually hold it resistance, which allows us to find day trade opportunities, right? So you'll notice these yellow boxes and this blue box is actually the overnight session. So anything outside is going to be the day session. Once we start the day session, you can see that we get sell volume and the day is holding lower lows and lower highs, meaning that there is a slightly bearish skew on the intraday, on this single day, we're going to be slightly bearish. Yes, overall we are bullish, but if we want to day trade this, we want to identify how we're going to keep bearish. So this area was a great area to look for the shorts with a stop above. But now, if we're going to continue our price action logic, we have to make a new low here. Otherwise, there's going to be a high probability of a reversal. Now, if we turn this into a 5-minute chart, we have more intraday movement and more intraday ideas, meaning that we could find more trades, right? So on the 5-minute chart, we can see, okay, well, this area that was supposed to hold support didn't do that. It actually broke and held resistance. This is where we're going to sell this SPY market, right? We come into that area again, you're getting the rotations, which is another key factor of price action trading, and you're going to see that downside come in yet again. So these rotations, what I mean by that is that there are these candles side by side, 5-minute candles that can't really go any higher, right? You can see them right here, meaning that there is going to be a spill to the downside based on what the overall structure looks like. We had them here at a key demand zone where we got buyers. Now, it's important to notice where these prices come in, right? Where these rotations and price actions come in based on the levels that we see. So on a day trade aspect, we can find our levels, right, from overnight action, previous day's action, 1 hour action, daily action, and attribute that to our trading strategy, right? Whether it's on the triple Qs over here or on the SPY. You'll notice that the downside structure is ever strong. So the question is, how will this price action strategy actually turn to the reverse, right? So how will a bear or a bull turn around? So that typically means that for a bull, remember, to identify a bullish trend, we have to have higher highs and higher lows, right? Now, the break of the bullish trend starts with a lower high. So a failure to make a new high is when we start anticipating that this thing might be over. So for example, here, you have a very key resistance that started from somewhere down here, this zone, right? We pop up, rotate, rotate, rotate off the open. We can't break higher. Very strong area of selling. That is the first clue that we may not continue this upside. Notice here, you get a push, you get a slight little pullback, you get a new high push, you get a pullback, you get another push, failure to break a high. I'm not really anticipating too much buying going on, and you have a high zone right here that is going to be a strong area of resistance. So what I mean by that is, if we look at price action elsewhere, right? If we have a just general zone like this, right? Why this zone? Because we have a prior top here that held. We have a prior top based on price action analysis, and that means that we should ideally hold this prior top, which we do, right? And then this area is still a strong area of support resistance. And the idea is from here, we need to make a new top rather than to hold this area as resistance, right? That is what starts this downside move. That is how we get a flip in the bullish structure. Now, the bearish structure, how we can identify that there's going to be a flip, right? Let's confirm what the bearish structure looks like. A bear, now the bear is going to be lower lows and lower highs, right? So how will the bear change? Well, no more lower lows are going to form, and then we're going to start to break resistance structure. So should this area be a higher low at this point, right? No more lower lows, and we actually break this resistance structure, there's a high probability that we go for a test to these tops. So we want to keep that in mind and keep that close to us, right? So based on this price action strategy, what we can identify is, number one, how trends continue and break. Number two, where our key areas are and how to hold them and reject them. So if you want to learn more about this, we have a free community called community.tradeproacademy.com, right, where we identify a lot of this structural change and a lot of these trade ideas. So go check that out. In the meantime, let's see how this shapes up in the futures. If you are trading the SPY and you are trading any other asset, right, that's closely correlated to the SPY or the Nasdaq triple Qs, I really, really suggest looking at the futures because they're going to give you a very clear identification of where the price action is super cleanly on a pre-market basis. So if we glue this area, remember, resistance turns support, support turns resistance, higher highs and higher lows equals continuation structure. So why don't we break this down, right? So based on this, we have resistance here that held overnight extremely well around 4202 on the ES futures, meaning that if this area breaks, it's going to be a very strong support to continue the upside. It breaks, we tag 4212, right? A 10-point move, which is equivalent to $500 per contract. Right now, this area means that there is going to be really strong support and a flip zone, because look, when you come in to sit down pre-market, you've seen that it's tested 4 times as resistance, 3 times as support. So that means that this area is going to be really strong to see if we're going to get any buyers coming in again. Now, the other caveat here is that we failed to make new highs, which gives us a bearish skew, especially if we break down into this zone. The targets are going to be the next area of support, meaning they're going to be down at around 4195, and then the next area down here where we see a stall, 92, and then down here where we see a consolidative pattern. You can identify this with volume profile. If you want to see more about volume profile, you know where to check us out at community.tradepro Academy. But as you go move by move throughout the day, you're going to notice that these zones and areas are going to hold, and at least price is going to consolidate. So how do we change this? Right? How are we going to identify that there is going to be a change in structure? Now, based on our rules, we have a zone right here. And if it holds and creates a higher low and we break through this resistance, we're going to see a pretty drastic flip to the upside. So just based on pure price action, you can find very strong demand and supply zones where you can take shorts and longs throughout the day, whether it's on futures, whether it's on stocks, whether it's on options. You can see a huge supply zone right here on the ES futures, which held. We didn't even get to test it. Otherwise, that could have been a good area to find the shorts. So if we take a look at Nasdaq, for example, on the futures front, you'll see the price action trading is very similar. So let's draw our zones together in this case. What we're going to do here is, on TradingView, draw our pre-market strong supply zone, right? We're going to draw our pre-market strong demand zone in this area, which is going to be a very strong flip zone, right? And then from there, we can identify some lower zones. Now, only with these two zones, you're going to find great opportunity and probability. Because what you're doing with this is you have a key area here, pre-market, that attempts to test the upside, right? You could be looking to sell into this area. As long as this area holds resistance, you're going to see sellers. We need a break and a retest for the upside to continue. Now, if this key area that held an amazing rejection from this prior resistance is broken, it is going to present us with a sell opportunity from 13,685, 5-point stop loss, right? We move all the way down very quickly, about 70 to 80 points on Nasdaq. That is an amazing profit opportunity. So if that doesn't convince you to learn some price action, I don't know what will. Now remember to use your bear and bull understanding, right, of lower lows and lower highs, and also higher highs and higher lows. Understand how these structures change, and also understand how to draw your support, resistance, or supply and demand zones for key price action trading. Now, if you enjoy these key price action trading strategies for futures and options and stocks, I want you guys to smash that subscribe button. These are intraday day trading strategies that break down exactly what we do in our trading room, how we do it on a daily basis. And if you want to learn more about that, community.tradeproacademy.com. If you want to get some free trade ideas, join me on Twitter, Torio Trades on Twitter, and Trade Pro Academy on Twitter, and you'll find a lot of ideas there, a lot of trades, mainly on futures and on stocks and options. So if you want to see a sneak peek of what we do on a daily basis, you got a lot of free content no matter where you go. So hit us up at community.tradeproacademy.com, where we got some special things cooking for our members that join us there for free. So having said that, thank you all. Smash that like button, and I'm going to see you guys next time.